Right, we are online. Let's get that right. Oh, mother of God, I've got cold. Okay. Volume check. All is well. Let's see what's happening in the sports news, shall we? Oh, BBC Sport, that's what we want. Bayern Munich beating Real Madrid at the moment. Oxlade-Chamberlain's going to miss the World Cup. Knee injury. Wenger's departure of Arsenal was not his decision, it was the club, so he was taken out of his hands. And apparently match fixing in tennis is rife. Apparently that's in the news. Tony Bellew is going to probably fight David Hay again. Djokovic has been beaten in a ATP tournament match. The Liverpool fans in a critical condition in hospital. Let's have a read of it. Well, Bayern 1, Real Madrid 1 at half time. Let's read a bit more about Arsene Wenger, shall we? Arsenal manager Arsene Wenger says the timing of his departure from the club after nearly 22 years was not his decision. It was announced on Friday that the 68-year-old will leave the club at the end of the season despite having a year on his contract. He was speaking before tomorrow's Europa League semi-final, first leg against Atletico Madrid. So yeah, the decision was taken out of his hands, and Luis Enrique is allegedly lined up to replace him. And besides Patrick Vieira, there's several managers lined up to replace him, so we have to see on that. So we'll have to see what happens with Arsenal. Yes, I've just checked the score. It's half time. It is 1-1. And obviously Liverpool last night were 5-0 up and, well, were sloppy and allowed two goals in the second half on the away goals. And we've seen what Roma have done on the away goals in the last round. So I think Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp will be frustrated with only having a 3-goal lead, and they can overturn a 3-goal lead. Makes the second leg very, very interesting. Real Madrid have obviously got an away goal against Bayern. So hopefully, but Roma proved in the last round it doesn't matter if you beat them by 3 or 4 goals. They've got the away goals and they have that mentality whereby they'll try and do it at home. So we have to see what happens in the second leg next week, but it should be very interesting. I think Roma have to score goals, and so it's not all solidified yet. But Oxlade-Chamberlain being important, Chamberlain crucial to chances and England's chances in the World Cup. This question's been raised about World Cup squads and which player should go. I'm actually hoping for a Liverpool Bayern Munich final because if it's a Liverpool Bayern Munich final, I think Liverpool have a better chance. Personally, I honestly believe Liverpool have a better chance if it's Bayern Munich. My personal opinion, but that's just me. But the question with players going to the World Cup and players playing at the World Cup being selected, Oxlade-Chamberlain is now out, and that's a bit of a problem for England because who would slot into the squad in his place? Because I'm not really sold on a lot of these England players that we have, and I think that's damaging for Liverpool as well because they obviously want to get to the Champions League final and win it, and he's a crucial part of Liverpool's setup and how Liverpool play. Oh God, Milner. He's got no pace though. That's the problem. And England's formation, the way Southgate sets up, is for a counter attack. But then if you look at how England play, they don't play on the counter attack enough. So I think Southgate has a problem. He doesn't have a plan B, and I'm not sold on England's defence. I don't think Milner. He hasn't got the pace. So whether he World Cup again, we'll have to see. He's a solid player. He's not outstanding. He's just a hard-working midfielder. I think England may be missing that hard-working midfielder, but Southgate hasn't selected him for a while, so he's not really on Southgate's radar, really. And I think that's Southgate's problem. I think see what is floating around outside the fashionable clubs because there are players at Leicester, there are players at Bournemouth, there are players at Burnley who could, slot in to the England side, and they are players. But they're not playing for one of the fashionable 6 clubs, so they don't get picked, which I think is wrong. And that's a mentality that most England managers have had. Playing for one of the top 4 or top 6 clubs, you don't get picked. I think that's really a flawed assessment on how good some of these players at some of these lesser clubs actually are. Burnley and Leicester, who I'm surprised haven't got England caps, but that's just me. But with Oxlade-Chamberlain now, how does that affect England? Well, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting over the next couple of months because we've got 50 days to the World Cup. We've got a month and a half to the World Cup. The opening group match. So we shall see. Milner, solid box midfielder. Counter attack football is what we'll have to wait and see on. But we'll have to see who Southgate decides to call up for the friendlies before the World Cup in a month and a half's time, and then who he takes with his final squad when the players actually get selected. And anything can happen in the last couple of weeks of the season. Anything can happen. So we just have to wait and see. Personally, I don't think Southgate's the right man for the job because he's far too negative in his tactics. He doesn't have a plan B. And if he sets up the team for counter-attack, they should play like that, and they don't. So I think Southgate has problems. And I think England have problems. There's not enough experienced, grizzled... oh, God, I hope not. I honestly, Wilshere can't stay fit enough and can't stay consistent enough. Wilshere is overweight. He is never fully fit. His off-field indiscretions are numerous. He likes to party too hard. Um, how you know when he went to Bournemouth for that season, he was very, very good. But at Arsenal, he's never fully fit. He's not consistent enough. His attitude sometimes stinks. Expressions aren't, good enough. I don't know. I mean, the first choice for midfield, you've got to look at. Okay, Dele Alli needs to sort out the amount, but he should be in there. But when Drinkwater decided to snub the England side, that's created a further problem. It's difficult. Do you put Lingard in there? Do you make Rashford play as an attacking midfielder or Sterling? Um, it's an interesting one with the England midfield. We don't have, for whatever reason, because a lot of midfielders are international football in the up and the last Euros and the last 4 tournaments, England have not been very, very good. Basically, 2010 was a disaster, 2012 was a disaster, 2014 was a disaster, and 2016 was a disaster. And a lot of those experienced players have gone. And for some reason, Southgate is obsessed with picking Tottenham players, and Tottenham have a habit of not winning important games, such as the FA Cup semi-final, such as in the league. So Southgate has a hard-on for Tottenham players, and Tottenham players tend to underperform. Eric Dyer is good, but he can go missing. Dele Alli can go missing, or in his case, get sent or disciplined. Jake Livermore has actually been playing side that's a sinking ship, and he is a box-to-box midfielder and has been regularly overlooked for England for the better part of 8 years. That's wrong. Day Drinkwater shouldn't go and should never be selected for England ever again after he snubbed them last time, and he's failing to produce at Chelsea. This is the midfield issues we have. Do we play Sterling as an attacking midfielder? Do you put Lingard in there? Do you put Rashford? Do you look at Lallana if he's fit? No, he's never fit, so you can take him out. Henderson is a box-to-box midfielder, but doesn't have a lot of pace. Do you put him in there as a distributor? Oxlade-Chamberlain now on his knee. Jack Wilshere I wouldn't have because he just looks like he'll run out of steam after 50 minutes. He doesn't look like he could do even 60 minutes. He's never fit enough. Midfield is a big problem. Defence, we actually have a lot of young defenders right now and some experienced defenders. Now, there's some defenders I think that have been overlooked. In the forward ranks, okay, Harry Kane is scoring a lot of goals, but you saw him you must have seen the FA Cup weekend. He was useless, absolutely useless. Went missing completely. I would have Vardy on the right, Rashford on the left, Harry Kane on the middle, have a front three. Harry Kane can hold the ball up. Vardy or Rashford can go beyond him. He can bring them into play. They then draw the defender, gives Kane space. That's how the front three should work. 2 pace guys with a slightly slower guy up the middle. Who would I have England manager? Oh, Stuart Pearce. I would have Psycho. I would actually have Stuart Pearce. Personally, he's far better at motivating players. He was a far more aggressive player than Southgate was. He doesn't hold any shirkers. I think Southgate's too nice. I don't think Southgate is ruthless enough. Stuart Pearce will not take any bullshit. Basically, he will not take players not putting their weight. He won't take players being unprofessional. He won't take players who are too egotistical. He will say, "This is how it's going to be. You are going to do it." And he's the type of guy who will be a great man manager and put the arm around the shoulder if there's a mistake there. But at the same time, he will lob a teacup at your head. That's why it's called Psycho. He was a great, and he wasn't the most skillful player, but my God, he played with passion and energy. Southgate, he's too soft. He doesn't seem to have a plan B. His managerial record at club level was crap. He got Middlesbrough relegated, and rightly so, because he only had like a 25% or 30% win percentage. Oh, there you go. At least Stuart Pearce had a better win percentage at Man City. Nottingham Forest and McLaren, I think whoever gets thrown in there, automatically the press was want them to fail and put a lot of pressure on the poor man. If it ain't Stuart Pearce, I'll go for Eddie Howe because he's young, he's energetic, he's enthusiastic, he's done great things with Bournemouth with a limited budget and with not the most crap squad, but with a limited squad, Eddie Howe has worked miracles. And even when the team lose, he's still upbeat and he can still go. We've got next week's game, whatever, and we'll keep going. So Eddie Howe is Stuart Pearce for me. You either go with a young manager who's not long retired, and Eddie Howe is basically a one club man. He is loyal. We tried the foreigner, it didn't work. Sven was the best foreigner out of the two. Capello was a little bit more wooden. We tried with Sven, we tried with Capello, and both times it failed. And if anything, England have got worse, and they got worse under Capello. 2010 was not a good World Cup. That was a team that was stuttering, filled with some brilliantly skilled players, some great energy players, some very experienced players. No, I don't think Mourinho's the right. Look how Mourinho's coaching Man United. He's making Man United literally look like paint dry, and some of the players, especially young, talented players, aren't getting the amount of game time they deserve. And Mourinho, he's made Man United a bit harder to beat, but they still lose games that 5-10 years ago they won. I don't think Mourinho. I would not have another foreigner. The problem is we haven't got enough young English players anyway playing in the Premier League. He does get results, but he hasn't actually won anything this season yet. He's got to win that FA Cup final. And then you can say, right, he's now won trophies with United back-to-back seasons. Until he does that, I don't know. I'm not 100% certain on Mourinho. I don't think a lot of the players will go on with him. He's already, bear in mind, if he becomes England manager, there's players like Luke Shaw and Marcus Rashford that under him are not getting enough game time. Jesse Lingard has had restricted game time. These kids are part of the England setup. Now, Luke Shaw has been injured a lot, and we'll give him that, but some of the things Luke Shaw's come out and said, he wants out of United. The way the whole Paul Pogba thing's been dealt with, a lot of these players want out. Mourinho is not getting on with his playing squad at all. So we'll have to see what happens. I personally think the foreign experiment hasn't worked, but at the same time, there's too many foreign players in the league as well, and there's too many foreign managers in the league. And at which point you've got to go, right, is there enough now? We need to start encouraging more players to be able to take up the game. Because Mick McCarthy, no, he's a good manager, Mick McCarthy, and I think he's much maligned. I really, really do. I think what happened with the Ireland job in 2002 with Roy Keane basically undermining him from day one. And Mick McCarthy, bear in mind, Roy Keane was the team leader. He threw him out the squad. No, but seriously, no, Mick McCarthy, with Roy Keane, big ego, clashed with the manager, and Roy Keane said, "On your bike, son." And they actually did reasonably well at the 2002 World Cup with the players they had and the limited resources Ireland had. Mick McCarthy, no, he's quite good. I would have Martin O'Neill. If you really want to go for a home nations man, Mick McCarthy and Martin O'Neill, I wouldn't actually mind them. They both coached in the Premier League. They both played in English football. They understand. They understand the way English football should be played. Every country has its own sort of style, and at the moment, England doesn't have a style. It's sort of too much foreign influence, and foreign influence can be a good thing. But we're not 10, 20 years ago. A lot of English or British players were playing in Europe, overseas. They're not doing that at the moment. There's not really any English players playing in France, playing in Germany, playing in Italy, playing in Spain. Gareth Bale is an exception. He's Welsh. We 10, 20 years ago, lots of English players were playing abroad. Now, not so much. Okay, the sight and sting. That could be interesting, but again, we've got to look at, in the ice hockey, we've got to look at. Okay, see you later, Owen. I'm not going to be on late tonight. I'm only going to be on for another 50 or so minutes. I came on later than I wanted to, but I will. If I'm still here, I'll see you later. Casey, yeah, with the sight and sting, that is interesting. But I think we have to see what's happening with Basingstoke. We have to see what's happening with Cardiff, because that could mean a rearrangement. Say Telford go back to the South Division, for example. So we have to see. But every off-season, when it comes to British ice hockey, we don't know what's going to happen from one season to the next. And we've just had the Edinburgh Capitals go out of business. Basingstoke don't have a rink. that I think is safe to play on, but other people seem to disagree. Um, British ice hockey is like this at the moment, where from each off season we don't know if any leagues are going to exist, clubs are going to exist, all sorts. Oh, the Solent, yeah, the Solent Devils. Yes, I did see that. If basically, well, we shall see if it's them or Oxford that go up through the promotion thing, because Oxford won the regular season, Solent won the playoffs. It will be interesting to see which team ends up in Division One South, and it also sees what happened with Basingstoke. Basingstoke can't sort out their rink issues. You might see Oxford and Solent Devils both go up, make it a 10-team league. We shall see. Um, but that requires a bit of research and a bit of looking at the league website, the club websites, Twitter feeds, and that may mean I have to do a bit of online research. But it is interesting. But it's this time of year where when a season ends of a sport, the rumour mill starts. So we have to take everything we hear with a pinch of salt until press releases come out, statements are made actually by the teams, players, leagues involved, and then we can build a judgment. Because at the moment, there's just a lot of what I call the silly summer season, because the same is going to happen in football, the same is going to happen in rugby, the same is going to happen in any sport that is a winter sport, that the summer is the off season. So we just have to wait to see what happens on that. But no, it is interesting. I mean, the Sting was 11 teams, Arsenal standard. I don't. You know, a good leagues only work with even number of teams. That's why Cardiff couldn't play any cup games, because it was an odd numbered league. If it was an even numbered league, it would work better. So unless they make it 12 in both North and South, it makes more sense. Even numbered league, sorry, works better than an odd numbered one. Firstly, for fixtures, yeah, that's what I mean. Or they try and keep it at 10, or they increase it to 12. You have an odd numbered league. Look at the NHL, for example. Okay, got 31 teams, and very similar as to what we've just had with the playoff structure, where the top teams from North and South played in the actual playoff final, and Basingstoke won everything. You look at the NHL with the conferences. The East and West are not balanced. There's one team missing from the West, and also you got to look at the summer draft and the draft lottery coming up and all that kind of stuff. That's why the NHL wants 32 teams. It works better for fixturing, so for the fixture list, and working out, home and away and how many times you've got to play each other. That's why you look at the football leagues. All the leagues in football, even numbered teams. So I think whatever happens, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. Bearing in mind that in the off season, before this season started, that we've just had, Chelmsford and Oxford were meant to be in Division One South, and then they pulled out, and they had to rejig everything. So we have to see what happens. But I will say this: this is what I call the silly summer season. When sports like football and ice hockey finish their regular season, finish the postseason, and go, that's when it gets interesting. If the Deeside Dragons do leave the North One, that makes sense to have these the Sutton Sting in. That then makes sense because it's an even numbered league of 10. We shall see what happens going forward, and we shall see what happens, because this is as I call it, the silly season. The seasons are just finished. There's going to be a lot of player movement. Basingstoke's future up in the air. That's interesting. The Edinburgh Capitals and the Murrayfield Racers, what's going to happen in the Elite League? This thing always happens every summer. And it's the same with football. It's so rugby. This player is going to be transferred to this club. This player is going to go to this team. This coach could get sacked. Who's going to be the new coach of this team? It happens every year, every season, with every league, every sport. It's the same in rugby league. It's the same in the Southern Hemisphere with the Super Rugby and the NRL and things like that. It happens in every single sport that as soon as the season finishes, the rumour mill starts of where players are going to end up, what squads are going to look like, if managers are going to come and go. And then, of course, managers do get sacked, managers do retire, managers do end their contracts, and the rumour mill starts, and it gets silly. But it'd be very interesting to see what actually happens with what teams go up and down and how the league structure is formulated. Basically, that is quite funny. I will accept that. They used to be called the Beavers. Now, beaver in English slang means women's gentleman part, women's lady parts. So they changed the name from beavers to bison. Um, um, the thing is, this is the first time I think in about 25 years we've had relegation promotion in the second tier of English ice hockey. Years and years ago, we used to have it when I was a kid. It's a very alien concept to ice hockey, but as fans of sport in general in Europe, we are used to it. But it's a very alien thing for this sport to have. We should see, if they do actually go with it, or if they go for an invite, you know, non-invite, because so many of the old EPL, a lot of the old EPL teams, your team, my team, have obviously, you have the second Wildcats, we have the Hornets. It would be a real strange thing if the Wildcats were to play the Wildcats. Who would be the home and away team? That's going to be an issue they've got to deal with. But it is what it is. I don't know what else to say, really. Another issue is the amount of money available to the sport and the amount of sponsorship and funding and player retention. So we have to see what happens in the Elite League with the Edinburgh situation, and we have to see what happens with Basingstoke because their rink is sort of falling down. So there's a lot to be interested in over the next. Well, Hull has tried before. The old Hull Stingrays tried before and run out of money. The Hull Pirates have only been going for 3-4 years as a team. And in the first couple of years, the Hull Pirates were a team. They weren't very good. They were pretty shocking, actually. To be fair, they lost heavily a lot of the time. But the Elite League, you don't the Elite League, you don't apply for it. You don't apply to be the next team. You get invited. So they will look at that particular team, the rink, the people who own it, the average attendance, the fan base in general, how much they sell of like what the game night experience is like. So what fan feedback is. They'll do surveys. They'll look long and hard. That's why Guildford and Milton Keynes got invited, and they accepted the invite. Basingstoke have done the Elite League before, and they ran out of money. Bracknell were invited and turned it down because they did not want to spend too much money. So money is a big thing as well. You've got to have the backing of an owner and a fan base that is willing to pay the. I've got some crap on the screen. Willing to pay the ticket price. The Manchester Phoenix came again as well, and played in the EPIHL. They went bust. Manchester Storm reformed twice. Phoenix reformed again. They ran out of money again. to play in the Elite League, the budget has to be high because of the amount of foreign players. That's why I think it's a shame that the EPIHL was gone, and because there was a limit of 4 to 5 imports, foreign players to a team, and it kept costs down. And even that was unfortunately not really working for Manchester because the Phoenix, midway through last season, decided to go, we've run out of money, we're going to stop playing now. We can't pay our players, we're going to, collapse. And the Elite League wanted to grow by 2 more teams, so they took Guildford and Milton Keynes, the Flames and the Lightning. It's Wednesday. It is a Wednesday. It's not a Friday, unless you're in Australia, at which point it's a Thursday. But you got to look at the Elite League. The Edinburgh Capital's gone out of business, or on the verge of going out of business. And there's a Murrayfield Racers, and there's a dispute about which team will play in the Elite League next year. No, the Phoenix, the Storm went out of business. The Phoenix then came into the EPIHL. They went out of business. Well, the Storm had already reformed about 2011. Yeah, I have said there's not been a lot of streams. I've had a few other things going on away from the channel. I had a few motorcycle repairs to do and a few other bits and pieces to do away from the channel. So I haven't had as many videos up and many live streams, but we have time to get a quick one in tonight. Gautam Gambhir standing down as Delhi Daredevils captain. That's interesting. Apparently, it's his decision. It's not anything to do with the team or the management or the coaching staff. It's Gautam Gambhir's decision to step down from the Delhi Daredevils captaincy. So that's quite an interesting move on that player's part. I thought I'd get the cricket in for you, Sajid. But back to the Manchester Storm. They ran out of money in the mid-2000s. No, I'm not PewDiePie. I hate PewDiePie. I know PewDiePie. I don't like PewDiePie. I don't subscribe to him. I don't like him. He's ruined YouTube. But no, not the streams. There's a lot of things coming up. A lot of questions in the. I don't think Gautam Gambhir is a T20 player. He's a very good test player because he can stick around, and therefore you can sort of stabilise an innings. Should, let's say, a couple of wickets fall, he can stick in there. Maybe have a slow scoring rate. 1 day's 50 over cricket. Yeah, again, if there's a sudden wobble in the order, you get him in there. He can stabilise it. He can, just tap a few singles about the odd 4 or 6. But he's not a fast run scorer. 3 big teams will always be Sheffield, Belfast. Sheffield and Nottingham are the real big guns. But Sheffield, Belfast, and Nottingham were the 3 teams that set up the Elite League. They initially invited Bracknell, I think Guildford Flames at the time, back in 2003, to join, and they said no. It took about 15 years for Guildford to finally join the Elite League this season. It took 15 years from when they were first invited, and they turned down. Bracknell never went. We stayed in the British National League, which went out of business a couple of years later. It was all to do with the cost, and the Elite League struggled for several years. But that's why now Sheffield has 2 teams. Nottingham has the Nottingham Lions as their NIHL 2 team. Sheffield's got 2 rinks. Sheffield is, I think, the hockey capital of the UK. It has 2. Well, the Sheffield Steel Dogs are semi-pro, but it has 2 reasonably sized rinks. But playing Sheffield is basically like playing the Goon Squad. They know how to fight. The statement I read from off the internet on the news websites was that it was Gambhir's decision to step down, and it had nothing to do with management. It had nothing to do with the team's decision or the coaching staff. It was purely his decision. But that is the statement that's been released. But I wouldn't be surprised if the leadership group in that team has said, "You've got to focus on your game." I don't think Gautam Gambhir plays much longer in cricket, personally, in the T20 format. It doesn't suit his game. He's a very good test player, which we will see this summer. We will see him this summer play in the Indian Test side. We will see him stick around and frustrate the England bowlers. His run rate is too slow for T20. He's a skillful shot selector. He's a very skillful player, but his run rate is very slow. He's very methodical. He's very orthodox, and that doesn't fit with 20 over cricket. It just doesn't. But we shall see. We shall see what the rest of the leadership group of that team do. Who becomes captain and vice captain, and what changes will happen, because midway through a domestic cricket tournament for your captain to go, by the way, I don't want to do this anymore. It's a bit odd. It's a bit odd. You normally do it at the end of a test series or at the end of a season, or you don't do it midway through a tournament. It makes no sense for a captain to be dropped midway through a tournament. Yeah, it is interesting. I think there's a lot going on here. I think a lot of agents are involved. So his player agent is probably pulling a lot of strings, and that's a worry. But I don't know. I mean, I haven't actually watched much IPL the last couple of years, but Gambhir is a very good test player. I think this is the wrong format for him now. His game doesn't suit it. You've got to score runs quick, and he's too methodical. I don't know. I mean, I think that's partly his agent, and people advising him are also suggesting that he obviously left Calcutta and went to Delhi. That'd be my thought on it. He's just not suited to the shorter formats of the game. He's just not suited to the shorter formats of the game. He's too methodical and orthodox in his batting style. But then you've got test players like AB de Villiers, who are very unorthodox in their batting style and very explosive, and they spew the ball around all over the place, and they have great shot selection, and they open up the bat face. And this is why some players just aren't suited to the shorter formats, whereas other players really, really are. But no, he's not a fast run scorer, and that's what you need in short formats, is to get as many runs as possible, because every dot ball is a killer, because it's so limited in the amount of overs and the amount of balls a player's going to face, and the amount of overs you get, and the amount of time. It's very, very limited. So I don't understand why he clearly knows his game isn't up for it. The coaching staff at the various teams he has played for really must clearly know that this guy is not a 20 over cricket player. He's a test player. But it is what it is. And we shall see what happens with him. But I don't think we'll see if he, we'll see what happens. And also, that was the most sixes in a match as well. Apparently 33 sixes in 40 overs or something. That's come up as well. It was a record number of sixes for the IPL. This is where Gautam Gambhir doesn't work in the IPL, because he doesn't have that crazy six in his armoury. Because you look at players such as Chris Gale, you look at AB de Villiers, you look at some of the shots they pull off, you look at Dwayne Bravo, they can hit the ball miles. Maybe not with the best technique. My God, they're powerful. Gautam Gambhir is a methodical player. But no, his decision to stand down, though, even if you're not playing well, you know, it's just one of them. Okay, Casey, see you later. Right. But the ECB are coming up with this 100 ball format, which is even shorter than T20, which I'm not so keen on. And the ECB are saying it's there to attract kids and their mums. So the press release is really embarrassing and cringeworthy. So they're trying to bring this new format to replace T20 cricket, and I find that weird, because the ECB for years tried to stifle the growth of 2020 cricket, and now they want to make the game even shorter. And they say this is the idea is to save Test cricket by killing off other forms of the game. This is why I don't think the ECB and the ICC and the various other governing bodies of cricket actually have a clue what they're doing. I think some people running the sport are absolutely clueless, to say the least. But let's see. Well, let me just quickly check the Champions League football. The 100 version is like the Cricket 100 or whatever it is, the ECB. It's a harebrained scheme designed to try and get even more kids and their mums. As the Americans call it, the soccer mum. Yeah, that kind of woman who's a stay-at-home mum is less and less a thing these days. Most women in Western Europe work, have jobs. There's a lot of countries in Europe have state-sponsored childcare facilities. It's a flawed concept, and I don't think it's the right way to go. But it's 2-1 to Real Madrid against Bayern Munich. So Real Madrid are winning the first leg in the Champions League semi-final. Right. The 100 ball thing, I don't think it's the right way to go. It's a harebrained scheme. I don't think it will work. The ECB tried for years to try and stifle the growth of T20 in England, refused to let players play in the IPL and the Big Bash. And now we've now got a whole team of players in India at the moment. We've got 11 players playing in the IPL, possibly 12 if there's any more injury reserve call-ups, whatever. But there's 100 players who have actually made the auction who are currently in IPL squads. That's a whole starting 11. And for years, the ECB tried to kill T20, and now they want to make an even shorter format of the game with apparently a 10-ball final over. It's madness. It's not even in the rule book to have like a 10-ball over. It's madness. It's just like, oh, we'll make a new game up. We'll make a new pissing sport then. I think the ECB are really, really scrabbling at straws. And Andrew Strauss is. And look, you are an Indian man, and you were saying 20 over, 50 over, and Test match is all you need. Munich aren't a side they were 10, 20 years ago. This is why Man City and Bayern Munich and some of these teams that have run away with their league titles this year have crashed out of Europe. And I think Liverpool will have a tough second leg. I think Liverpool will have a very, very tough second leg in mind because they've managed to concede two sloppy. Well, the penalty, we'd argue about, but they conceded 2 goals, 5-0 up, and it ends up 5-2. That gives Roman more than a chance. And Munich, it's what it is, really. German football needs to look at itself and go, right, we were competitive for a very long time with a lot of teams competing for the Bundesliga, and now it's just one. Something's gone a bit wrong in German football. But here's the thing. If Germany do really well at the World Cup and a lot of the players aren't from Bayern Munich, that is a good sign. If they do well at the World Cup and a lot of the players are from Bayern Munich and not from other clubs, that's a bad sign. 10 years ago, you had Schalke at the top, and they're still in the top 4, but they're not as good as they were. You had Hamburg, Hanover, you had Wolfsburg, Bayer Leverkusen, Kaiserslautern, and Bayern Munich. You had multiple teams going for the top 4 spots. You had about 8 to 10 teams that were all within about 20 points of each other. Now it's Bayern Munich, a gap, and then a couple of teams, and then it's not as good. Something's gone a bit wrong. Because until recently, Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund were really hammer and tongs on and off for years. And then Pep Guardiola went there, and then it all changed. But we'll have to see if German league football starts to struggle, then there's a problem. You need your Bayer Leverkusens, your Borussia Dortmunds, your Wolfsburgs, your Schalkes, your Kaiserslauterns to do really well. Your Mönchengladbachs, because if they don't, that is a problem. But you've got to see what's happened. Look at English football though. The same teams are always at the top. Always. Man United dominated the first half of the Premier League era with 13 titles. Now they're not winning anymore. like you said, I don't think T20 kills the career of a middle order batsman. I just think certain players are not suited to 20 over cricket. They're just not. It's not in their style or their game. Especially if you're an orthodox, slow run scoring, stabilising batsman like Gambhir or an Alistair Cook. T20 does not suit you because you've got to score stupidly quickly, and it does not work for certain players. Other players, like a Ben Stokes or an MS Dhoni, it works for them because they can come in and they can go, sod it, I'm going to have fun. I do think there's still things they can work on in 20 over cricket, but it's better than 100 balls, far better. I do not understand shortening the game to the point where it's done within half an hour. That'd be dumb. That'd be dumb. Oh yeah. I mean, the bowling is a bit more aggressive as well. So the bowling gets sprayed all over the place. There's more bad balls to smash for six. But then the batsman also makes some crazy shot selections. That's why it's interesting. That's why it's fun because it's always on the edge, and you've got to, why change a format that is working? Why fix what isn't broke? Schalke, yeah, no, Schalke were a very, very good team when I was a kid. Um, for a good while now, they have been declining. Hamburg are struggling right at the bottom of the league. Werder Bremen aren't the team they used to be. And it's a problem. German football needs to go, okay, we need a diverse number of teams really pushing for the top four because otherwise you start losing fans then. Look at Scottish football. Because Celtic have won it for over basically a decade now, fans are not turning up to games because they know the result of the game when their team plays Celtic. They know the result of the league before the league even kicks off. Before the season even starts, they can say Celtic will be top and Aberdeen or Rangers will be second or third. After that, it's a bit of a meh. That is the issue. When a league becomes uncompetitive, fans get bored and they stay away. And even now, even with the TV deals that have been signed, clubs are very reliant on ticket revenue and shirt sales and fans actually spending their hard cash at the club shop, at the stadium, and online to buy memorabilia and things like that. If fans are getting bored and they're not buying next season's jersey or they're not buying that ticket, it does hurt them. So, again, this is why I argue for a salary cap system. It makes the league far more competitive and far more even. It gives the underdogs or the smaller clubs more of a chance. Yeah, but I remember when we had the West Indies versus England years and years ago, when the Texas billionaire who was a dodgy banker at the $1 million game or wherever it was, and that's when T20 really started about a decade ago, if not a little bit more, about 12 years ago, and the ECB have basically ever since then tried to kill that form of the game, which I think is stupid. Aberdeen Celtic were better. Yeah, I do think the quality of Scottish football has gone down the toilet, not just last year, but for the last 20 years. There's a reason why Scotland have not qualified for an international tournament for most of my lifetime. The last time they qualified for an international tournament, I was 8. I'm 29 this year. That is how long it's been since Scotland have played international tournament football. Very long time. And when it came to the Olympics, when we had it in 2012, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland all tried to basically block both male and female players from playing in those Olympic sides. It was basically England teams. They didn't want to work with their sister organisations in the Welsh FA, the Football Association of Northern Ireland, and the Scottish FA. They all try to drag their feet about allowing their players to play for a Great Britain side of the Olympics, which doesn't make them very popular when it comes to centralised funding from government for grassroots stuff. But Scottish football was in a right shitter. Hurricane Relief. They've done a few of these charity matches, not just in cricket, but in multiple sports for disaster relief over the years. I remember the tsunami rugby charity match they did at Twickenham between the Northern Hemisphere versus the Southern Hemisphere rugby union about 14 years ago. There was like a barbarians game. Hello. So this happens quite a lot in sport. That they have these charity matches when the professionals play, and then they donate their match appearance fee to the charity and things like that. And there's also the celebrity charity matches as well. Some of them are really, really funny as well. There's some really, really funny things that happen. I remember Soccer Aid when Boris Johnson, the former mayor of London, the foreign secretary, was playing, and he rugby tackled. What's the player's name? It's going to annoy me now. Oh, the ice hockey player Sergei Fedorov was also involved, and he just rugby tackled him out. Picked him up and rugby tackled him off the pitch, which was hilarious. Back to the Aberdeen Celtic point. No, the quality has severely dropped. And I've been criticised for saying that the quality in Scottish football is not what it was by many people on live stream and many people on videos. And I just find it disingenuous. Really, the quality of Scottish football has been declining for a better part of 2 decades. There's a reason why there's not many Scottish internationals now playing in the Premier League. There's a reason why they haven't qualified for a major tournament for 20 years. There's lots of problems, and the Scottish FA doesn't want to seek help from the main FA in England and go, can you give us some ideas of how to improve the game? I don't want to ask for help. I haven't checked out the cricket World 11. But a family friend is a member of Lords, so I probably find out a lot more information than you can. I'll also be on Xbox tomorrow at some point, but I have got other bits and pieces to do. I may not be around tomorrow in the daytime for Xbox. I might be out, but I will keep my eyes peeled if you're online. Right. What other questions do you want? What other topics? Because we've covered a lot of ice hockey, we've covered a lot of football, and a lot of cricket. And there's some very interesting points being raised. The quality level in German football is dropping. And this is part of my argument that some sports need a salary cap. So football in Europe needs a salary cap because at the moment you can basically say who's going to win the Champions League who's going to be in the Champions League final. You can pretty work out about one of 6 clubs will be in the Champions League final. You can work out which 2 or 3 teams will be the top few teams in the league. You can pretty much work it out without too much difficulty, and that's a bit of a problem. And also the amount of debt as well. West Brom, yes, they could be relegated this weekend. It's getting very interesting at the bottom because West Brom under Moore have really improved and really have a bit of fight about them that they haven't had all season. Southampton need to start. Well, they're at the FA Cup. They can focus on the league. It all depends on Palace. It all depends on West Ham and Palace. If either of those teams get a win, or both get a win, West Brom had it. I think Stoke are going down as well. I don't rate Paul Lambert as a manager. I really don't. I've watched a couple of games of European club rugby this year, but again, it's all on BT Sport, and I refuse to pay for BT Sport because it's poor quality coverage. And when I say poor quality, it's not like they don't cover the games; it's the commentators. Leave a lot to be desired. They're of a poor quality. And if I'm honest, with the issues they have with the old Heineken Cup discontinuing and they changed it to like more of a Champions League style format that we have in football, there were issues with some of the sponsors, bits and pieces. I've watched a couple of games this season. I was disappointed with some of the teams that I thought would be better. I was quite disappointed in some teams. Some teams did disappoint me and didn't perform as well as they could have performed. And some teams are clearly declining. Like Stade Francais are not doing well this year at all, domestically or in Europe. They've been terrible this year. But there's also the qualification protocols for it. Basically, almost every team qualifies for European rugby in every league. I think that's insane. That's rewarding playing crap. By the way, you played crap last year, you finished at the bottom of your league, but you can have some European rugby. We're going to reward you for being crap. Makes no sense, but that's because they just weren't good enough. I think teams like Exeter, who won the Anglo Welsh Cup, they are not getting the press they deserve. Neither are Newcastle, the Falcons. They've been underrepresented. The media isn't covering the teams that are really doing well, such as Newcastle and Exeter. And you've got to look at the England national side. Now you got Simmons and you got Jack Nowell, and there's a few Exeter players getting in, and that's great. They are the best team in England by a country mile. Domestically, they're the best team. But the heavy reliance on Northampton Saints, Harlequins, Leicester, Saracens, Wasps, some of these teams aren't playing that well. Northampton Saints really are shit this year. And the overusing of Mario Itoje, for example, he's been used far too much for a young player. And he might have done the whole sleeping celebration thing, but that's just him being a wanker. He really is tired. He may not claim he is, but his coaching staff must go. He's burning out here. It is interesting, but you've got to look where England and Scotland finished in the Six Nations. They weren't the top two. The Irish were ahead by a country mile over everyone else, which says something. And lo and behold, a lot of Irish teams are doing very well this year. I might be able to catch the one of the European finals. I did last year, but Sky and BT really, really don't make it easy to get involved with sport without having to pay excruciatingly high amounts of money for it. And the presenting quality is shit. Austin Healey is a really, really poor pundit. He's crap on TV. He's actually painful to listen and watch. He's painful to listen to. He's painful to watch. But on the BBC, you got Jonathan Edwards, and he's terrible as well. His views are so outdated. He's about 20, 25 years out of date in his rugby views because the game has evolved far more than what it was when he was playing. He does my nut. Don't know why the BBC keep employing him. And then ITV's coverage just makes you want to rip your eyes out when you've got international rugby on ITV. And occasionally Channel 5 has a couple of games. I was hoping they were meant to have one game every weekend, but then they changed the deal and screwed us out of free-to-air TV. Pain in the arse. I don't. This is why I worry about rugby, because if BT Sport does hit struggles at some point, which it will, rugby is going to suffer financially terribly. Can Rangers get relegated? Can Rangers get relegated? Well, I wouldn't be surprised. Everything's happened this year in sport. You got to look at the jersey I'm wearing. This team weren't going to be as good as they were in the NHL, and they're into the second round of the playoffs. It's been a crazy year for sport. I wouldn't be surprised if Rangers have any more financial problems. It's something like that happens again. West Brom has been a disaster. I wouldn't say Alan Pardew won't find a job in the Premier League again. I do think, though, it was the wrong man for the wrong club. And I don't think the players just clearly have been very unprofessional, both for Tony Pulis. They'd stopped playing for him. They never played for Pardew. They never decided to even lift a finger for him. And you've got to look at the off-field indiscipline of the Barcelona pre-season trip. That tells you everything you need to know about how unprofessional these players have been. We have to see what happens with Pardew. He might go, I've had enough of the managerial merry-go-round. I've had enough of the stress, because I actually have a lot of sympathy for almost every single football manager, really, because there's no job security at all, none. The average tenure of, half the Premier League has been sacked this year. Okay, count West Brom as 2 sackings. Okay, 9 clubs in the Premier League have changed manager at least once. That is stupid. The amount of managerial changes, including caretakers, is technically over half the league. It's mad. But no, West Brom is a disaster. There are things happening off the field with the running of the club that are a problem. I think you throw any manager in there, they weren't gonna keep him going. I think Paul Lambert gets sacked in the summer. We have to see what happens with Southampton, Palace, and West Ham. But I do hope David Moyes is not a manager next year, because if he's there next season, West Ham are relegated. Sam Allardyce, well, Everton were in their wisdom sent out that survey to fans to say, how do you rate our team? The first half of the season was an absolute shit show. I don't think Sam Allardyce has fully, really clear, redeemed himself from his time as England manager when he said those things about breaching transfer rules and breaking the law and being a sleazeball. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if about 15 is loads, because Wenger's leaving in the summer now because he's been forced out. I knew this would be his last season, but I was very surprised when he signed a 2-year deal last year. They're going to have to give him some compo because he's got a year left on his contract. Allardyce signed a 3-year contract. He's probably going to go. David Moyes will go. Paul Lambert will go. I think Moore at West Brom will stay because he's firstly his next player. No, Hodgson, from where they were, yes, he gets a lot of negative press, which I think is wrong. I think the England job really damaged him. Really, really damaged him. I think the question came up earlier. Would I have I think you asked. Would we have a? I thought, would I have a foreign manager? We tried it, and I did say we did try it, and it didn't work. Especially the Capello era was a nightmare. But Steve McLaren, the Wally with the Brolly, wasn't much better. And look at his career; it's really tanked. Silva, yeah, he could get picked up by our sides. But you've got to look at the teams that haven't sacked their managers. Eddie Howe. People were screaming for his sacking at the beginning of the season. Look where Bournemouth are now. He and Sean Dyche. Those two managers have had to work on very small budgets, and look where their teams are in the Premier League with the amount of money they don't have. And this is where I find the TV deal that the big six clubs wanted to be more greedy and take and not share evenly. If they did that, Bournemouth and Burnley get relegated. The reason why they have done so well is because there's a money sharing agreement with the TV deal that every club gets equal rights. And I like seeing the smaller clubs do really well. I mean, as a Blackburn fan, it pains me to say, but I actually want Burnley to get into Europe. I want Bournemouth to get into Europe, just to say to these big boys, hey, you've got all the money, you can't win the Champions League or Europa League, let's give us a go. And I wouldn't be surprised if next year Burnley and Bournemouth are pushing for European places. And remember, Fulham got to the Europa League final in 2010, and they were on a small budget as well. So it is doable. And Leicester won the Premier League on a quarter of the budget of Man United. Not because they had big signings, because they had team unity and hard work. It's doable. But the way the rich clubs operate is to make sure that the little guy, the Cinderella story, the thing that will get people interested in the sport more. If Man United win all the time, and Man City win all the time, people get bored. If your Bournemouths and your Leicesters and your Burnleys and your Watfords do really, really well and compete and get in the top 6, top 4, top 8, wherever it is, and get in Europe, it actually interests the casual fan because there's a Cinderella story going on, and it makes it more interesting to those who aren't really interested in the sport to actually go, Bournemouth are doing well in the Premier League, Burnley are in Europe. It piques people's interest. If the same teams win over and over again, the sport becomes uncompetitive, fans stay away, there's no interest because they know who's going to win the league. Look at Scotland, look at Germany. If the same teams win all the time, fans get bored. If different teams have a chance of winning, fans stay interested and new fans can come in. Simple logic. Claude Puel, no, he's done well with them. He's done very, very well. But the fans had one trophy in 15 years and they go mad. This is why I can't stand the media anymore, the mainstream media. I can't stand the manager merry-go-round because no manager gets long enough to really implement a 3, 4, 5-year plan. The owners demand success straight away. The media are on their backs and pretty viscerous, and the fans have no patience anymore. This is why football's gone mad. The money has driven it mad. And it's less appealing for me to watch. I mean, I know a lot of you guys are asking questions about football, but for me, I don't like watching it anymore because I know that manager's probably going to get sacked, and it's probably not his fault. The players are overpaid. You got to think, right? Hello, you got to think. Okay, think about this. The TV deal they've got, they could let us in for free. Okay, they could let us in for free until this TV deal expires. The growth in TV deal was initially meant to actually reduce ticket costs so the average fan could go to the game more regularly. Yeah, bollocks has it. FA Cup final tickets now, the average price is £149 for the cup final. The cheapest ticket has gone down by £1, but the actual average price has gone up by £30 bloody pounds over last year. I'm sorry, but the people who own the clubs, for the most part, are greedy. The players are greedy. We need a salary cap. And we need a ticket cap price as well, a cap on ticket prices and shirts. It's getting to the point where it's getting too expensive. And the rich clubs keep getting richer, and the poorer clubs at the bottom end of the scale, like your Accrington Stanleys and your, your Shrewsburys, teams that have had very, very good seasons, by the way. And Accrington Stanley now into League One for next season, which is a miracle, considering they've gone bust 4 times in the professional era. Oh yeah, we need to have cost certainty because I haven't been to a football match for over a decade, and I refuse to go because it costs too much. And you're not even it's not even taking into account food, drink, travel, and hotel costs. Doesn't take into account any of that. And yeah, I did feel the Ranieri sacking was right, but the players decided to refuse because the players got their winners bonus in their contracts. They were dragging their feet and they were lazy. Didn't want to play for him. So Shakespeare comes in. That's insane as well. $300 in. Let me work this out on a currency transfer. That's about 170 quid, 200 quid on exchange rate on a perfect day. That's variable. 170, £200. Yeah. So I don't understand how people. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like what Vegas has done this year for a new team. Brilliant what they've done, and how they had to start the season after that horrific mass murder, and how they brought the city together, and how the city needed healing, and they helped heal a very divided community, and everyone's welcome there. That's brilliant. And what they're doing in the NHL is brilliant. That is too much money. Far too much money. Yeah, I think the players are overpaid. Stupidly overpaid. The players are paid far too much money. The ticket prices are stupid. I mean, a friend of mine went last year to a Chelsea Tottenham game, and it cost him an arm and a leg. We're talking over the whole day, including travel, parking, food, drink, the hotel for the night. We're talking a couple £100 for one bloke. That is wrong. That is absolutely wrong. And they've got this multi-billion TV deal, multi-billion pound TV deal, and they could let us in for free. And they raise the ticket price every year. And the FA claim that the ticket price has gone down. It has in actual terms, but not in real terms. They're two different things. Actual terms mean okay, it's a quid less, or it's stayed the same. In real terms, it's called inflation and wage squeeze, and people not getting wage increases and pay rises. Ticket prices are higher now than they ever have been in real terms. Oh yeah, no, the Premier League, they're overpaid. They're completely overpaid. There's no salary cap. Now I cover, as a lot of you know, I cover many sports on this channel. Many sports on this channel. I got playlists on rugby league, rugby union, football, ice hockey, American football. I've done a baseball video, and I don't even like baseball, but a viewer requested it, so I did my research and I looked into baseball and I did a couple of videos on that. I've done videos on the NBA. I've done motorsport, cycling, tennis, you name it, I've done it. Most of those sports have a salary cap. Most of those sports do have a salary cap. My favourite sport, well, as you can see, I'm wearing a Winnipeg Jets hat, and I'm wearing a Vegas Golden Knights hoodie. So ice hockey is my favourite sport. Um, has been for a very long time. I used to play rugby union, but oh yeah, my friend Rob is going to be playing for the Bracknell rec team in the summer. Another one of my friends used to play for the rec team in Bracknell, but sadly he had a very serious motorcycle accident and he can well no longer play for health reasons. But a few of my friends do play rec hockey. One of my friends used to play in Basingstoke. But the summer I go on my motorcycle and I ride a lot. Um, I like watching ice hockey in the winter. It's just what I do. I prefer to go on my motorbike and go on long rides in the summer because the weather's nice and I can get out of the house. Um, but no, yeah, back to the Premier League players. Yeah, their wages have gone up, and also agents' fees as well. Agents' fees is a big thing, and this is what's worrying. Let's go to rugby union and Mario Itoje. His agent also is an agent for football players. His agent breached betting rules because he was gambling on matches that his sports stars were playing in, and he's got a ban. So agents and how agents are policed and regulated is a problem, and their fees are going up as well. Agents' fees have gone up stupid amounts. They get bonuses if their player gets a multi-million-dollar transfer or pound transfer. If their player gets so many points, tries, goals, assists, they also get a bonus as well. So agents are a big problem in some sports because there's no regulation on how much a percentage bonus they get for their asset, their client performing well or badly. Um, it's very interesting. Let's have a look. What else we got? Yeah, Kemmel. I'm not surprised. Your friend who's a YouTuber, a Chelsea fan, is going off the sport. Um, I'm not surprised, Kemmel, that your fellow YouTuber, your Chelsea mate, has decided to is moving away from the sport. I'm not surprised. I follow West Ham TV as well because it's funny, and they are not a happy bunch right now. They really go both barrels. Arsenal TV as well. They go both barrels. A lot of the fans are complaining about how much the players are paid, the ticket price, and the quality of the product going down. But I think football in general, the quality level is not as high as it was 10, 15 years ago. Yes, there are a lot of um, ex-professional or high-level hockey players playing for rec teams and for lower-level amateur teams because they just want to keep fit and they enjoy the game. So Casey, I'm not surprised they do that. I know there's a few ex-hockey players and football players playing rec hockey and rec football and five-a-side football just because they like it for the fun. Do I follow German football? I used to, not anymore. Um, I don't really follow football anymore, if I'm honest. I used to. I've gone off it. I do still see how my team are doing in England. I do follow how they've done. We've got promoted back to the Championship, so we're on the up. I follow how my cousin's team does in League Two, and they're staying up. Um, and I follow the teams that my family support. So I will see how my team Blackburn are doing. I'll see how Yeovil Town are doing. I will see how uh, Southampton do, but Southampton have been shocking all year, so that's been horrible. And I see how some of my friends' teams do. I track my friends' teams and I let them, I just follow them as a hobby, but I don't really follow the sport as I used to, even though I will be watching the World Cup and I will be doing videos. Oh, yeah, and Arsenal fan TV, a lot of the fans have been saying for a while the ticket price is too high, players are overplayed and overpaid, sorry, and that they have concerns about the running of the club by Kroenke, the ownership. But it's very interesting hearing a fan's perspective on how they feel their team, their club, their favourite players, whatever it may be, is run and performing. Fan TV is brilliant. Um, and this is what the mainstream media and the clubs don't want you to hear is the fans' voice. They don't, because they really, it's not what they want to come out, all the negativity. They want, oh, everything's positive, everything's fine. But there are fans complaining still about homophobia, racism, um, poor security, poor policing, ticket prices, food and drink prices, getting to the ground, accessibility, all sorts. And the clubs try and hush all that. Um, I, I okay. Well, it's interesting when a team has an anniversary season, or a team reaches a certain point, and books get released. There's biographies, or there's team histories and things like that. It's very interesting when ex players get interviewed about said incident in said game, or an incident in a changing room, or a funny prank they used to pull on their teammates. It's very interesting when players have retired and they're away from the game, and they give interviews on the TV, or they give interviews to radio, or for internet websites like YouTube, or they go and give an interview to a newspaper, or they are interviewed for a book. Some of the things they come out with, some of the stories they tell, very, very interesting. What some of these former players talk about when they talk about their former managers, their former teammates, what they felt about playing in against a certain team in a certain arena or a certain stadium. It's really, really funny. And I've got some sports books which are about, or been written by ex-sportsmen, or are about ex-sportsmen or ex-teams and things like that. And some of the stories are really, really funny. Um, and it shows how sport has evolved over the last 20, 30 years, from what was classed as professional 30 years ago to professional now. There's a lot of differences in diet, um, uh, post game, pre game, everything. It's interesting because with ex players and those who still play amateur level, and there are those out there in football, ice hockey, rugby, all sorts. I've played with some ex professionals in rugby. It's great fun. Some of the stories they have to say and tell, and some of the things they got up to when they were younger, and they were parkour in the dressing room. Some of the pranks they used to play on teammates are absolutely hilarious. Um, there was one incident when I was playing at my local rugby club the season before they'd done their summer tour, and they, been on tour, and one of the lads decided to replace uh, the water bottles with vodka. So at half time or every water break, they're getting really thirsty, and he's dripping vodka. He's putting vodka in the water bottles, and when they had their orange juice, it was vodka and orange juice. It was a screwdriver, and basically the players were getting more and more drunk in 30-degree heat. That type of thing. And that was a tour match, so that's not even full professional. That's sort of the culture that persists. Is there's a jokey, fun kind of friend culture around lower levels of sport. Does BT mean more than two? I have no idea. I think BT may be a code word for his company name because of trademarking or things like that, or it is British Telecom. But no, BT. It could be someone's initials, like a company's initials, abbreviated, or it could be to protect the company identity for copyright reasons. Um, yeah, that you could do that today. You could not go to reception naked. They probably get arrested, and you'll probably get disciplined. But we've done all sorts. We've done the shaving foam. I've heard stories about some of the antics players get up to. Some of them are quite funny. Um, some of the antics are quite funny. Some are a bit. Oh, that was the year I was born. God, that's a long time ago. Yeah, I don't think that happens now. I think more of the antics now are putting shaving foam in the hockey gloves or filling your boots with water. I think that's more of the antics now, or tying the shoelaces together. I think it is interesting when you look at the sport in the 80s and 90s compared to the antics now. It has evolved. Some of the best ones I've seen is one of the players dressing up as a mascot and jumping out at players, or there's another one I've seen where the guy puts on prosthetics, makes himself look about 80, looks like an old age pensioner, and he goes around and he sits with the fans, and he sat there and he's pretending to be really old, and this kid, he starts talking with his family, and the kid doesn't realise that he sees his name on the back of the shirt, and the kid doesn't realise this kid doesn't realise they're talking to their idol, and he's sat there with his walking stick, and then he gets up and pulls the beard off and pulls the fake wig off and pulls out the fat suit and goes, "I'll sign your shirt for you," and the kid's face just lights up. That's some of the stuff. Yeah, that's the Ryan Kessler one. No, is that Kessler or is that no? It's Ryan Getzlaff. It's Getzlaff who does it, not Kessler. It's Getzlaff. The other one is when I think it could be Ryan Kessler or Getzlaff pretends to be the security guard, and Corey Perry gets really annoyed, and then they realise he's the security guard. There's several of these kind of things they do. There's is it what team was it? Is it the New Jersey Devils? Guy dressed up as the mascot and then kept jumping out at his teammates. There's been an NBA one where the guy was again the mascot and jumped out at his teammates. There's been all sorts. Yeah, he's like I think he did a series of them. I think it was right. It was Ryan Getzlaff, and he did a series of going around um, the Anaheim Arena pretending to be either a tourist or an old age pensioner, or a security guard, and he was doing all these things to catch out his teammates from fans, and it was really really funny. Um, I think yeah, there was some interesting stuff, but no, it's interesting. Sport is very interesting. Um, but yeah, it is what it is, though. I mean, that's the type of prank you do now. 20, 30 years ago, yeah, the stripping your teammate naked or nicking all their clothes and they have to go to reception in like a towel. That I think is a bit past it. Well, I think it was a pre-season. I think it was pre-season when some of the AHL players get called up and they're just doing the pre-season exhibition matches before the regular season, and so then therefore he can get away with it because he's not named in the lineup. Um, I think it was a couple of years ago in the pre-season he did his undercover disguise stuff, and it was really funny. I thought it was funny anyway. Not that I'm a big fan of Anaheim, don't particularly like them, but I think that's kind of pretty genius. Doing that kind of stuff. Um, but multiple teams do it. Multiple sports do it, where they will get one of their players who's either not playing at the time because he's rested or he's injured to do the go in disguise and meet and greet the fans in disguise and pretend to be a regular fan and surprise the fans, sign their jerseys and give them a surprise and get a selfie with them. They do it a lot. It's like Tony Hibbert used to play for Everton. Regularly used to sit in Goodison Park with when he wasn't playing, when he wasn't selected, he would go as a regular fan, pay for a regular ticket, and he would stand or sit with regular fans, and he would just be Tony Hibbert. He would be himself, and he would go and sit with the Everton fans at home or away games or cup games or things like that. Yeah, no, that happens as well. The I broke said bone, insert joint here, insert bone here. That does happen more than you realise. Um, and the thing is with hockey, the pads are now harder than they were before, and the players are bigger and they hit harder and they're faster and they're stronger. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are players who we've watched this season playing with cracked ribs, broken ribs, shoulder injuries. They're all taped up. I would not be surprised if that happens more often than we think. That players are playing seriously hurt more than we realise. But it doesn't matter if it was the late 80s, early 90s, or now. The game has changed in the last 25 years, but the fact he got hit hard and broke 3 ribs, um, that could happen with a clean hit or a dirty hit. It doesn't really matter. A clean hit can do that. It really can. Also, the way he could have fallen as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's happened a lot this season and we don't know about it. Um, that wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. That has happened a lot this year. And I've got an itchy mustache tonight. Oh, and we don't know about it. Um, it happens in most of these contact sports that players will play on through injuries that they really shouldn't. Yes, far too Liverpool. I think Liverpool made a mistake last night with allowing Roma to get those 2 goals because Roma proved in the last round what they can do with the away goals rule, and with a 3-goal deficit, they can easily overturn that. Then he was called up from doing centre bench for most of the game and to go out and score the winning goal. Well, here's the thing: like when you hear stories from ex-players in any sport, they will talk about their first appearance for the senior side they're playing for. They will talk about some of the funny stuff that's happened, and they will talk about their record of how many points I got when I hit 100 points or 100 goals, or when I hit 100 appearances, or whatever it may be. They remember the milestones as well, but it's interesting when that wouldn't surprise me either. If you're sat down a lot of the time, you are going to lose a lot of circulation in your legs, and ice rinks do get exceptionally cold. But no, when you're like 16, 17 years old and you're playing against the big boys, yeah, you can be overawed. You can feel out of your depth. You can feel nervous. But I've seen so many sporting documentaries and so many interviews of sportsmen and women, and read so many books and articles when mostly after the players have retired and they said, yeah, my first game was like this, or my worst game was like this. And then you also got to remember that there's like the news articles of oh yeah, it's also interesting to go back through the history books. There's several websites like Elite Prospects and things like that which will have the history of a team or a franchise, and it will go through their league position, how many goals they got that year. There's several of them. There's Elite Prospects. There's multiple websites where you can go through and look at a team's history or a player's history, and you can go through. Elite Prospects is one, but they're not as good as others. And you can go through and you can see how a player's performed, how a team's performed, what players have played in the past, the all-time points leader, penalty minutes, assists, goals, games played, game-winning goals, power play goals, all sorts. It is very interesting to look at the stats of teams, the stats of players. It is really good fun. Elite Prospects is one of the sites. There are others. I have to find them. Yeah, you'll hear stories like that where, like, at the time the player was frustrated because he wasn't getting on with his teammates or his manager, or it wasn't working out. He gets replaced by another player who he doesn't rate, and then years down the line, they're all friends again. It happens. But it is what it is, and this is the joys of professional and semi-professional sport. It's an interesting thing that's constantly evolving and constantly changing as the years go on, and it's very interesting to see, players how they perform from season to season. If they get better or worse, some players get actually better as the older they get. Some get worse the older they get. Some never reach their potential. Some have a lot of injuries. It's really interesting to see, how players and teams develop over a period of, let's say, 5-10 years, season 1 to season 10, to see how they all change and how it all works out. But yeah, you're reading a book that dates back to the early days of your team's existence, with the team you support. And this is all like the ex-players who've played 10, 20, 30 years ago being interviewed for this book. And I wouldn't mind actually reading this book and seeing some of the stories. But yeah, no, it is interesting where players go and what they do. In every sport. And this is what I find funny. Hockey players in the UK do not get paid a lot. Compare it to football players. And you probably find the hockey player stories are far more interesting than the football player stories. That's my view now. I think you'll find that the hockey players are far more interesting, complex characters than the football players. And you'll probably find they're better people as well, and they're more interesting to talk to, and they're more down to earth, and they're in it for the love of the sport, not for the money. That's my view on it. And we've had some brilliant players come over to the UK to play over the years. And now the Elite League is getting better and growing, and there's more players playing and more people watching. It's really interesting to hear about. And I thank you for all the comments and all the questions you put up there. I mean, you've sort of dominated the chat for about 15, 20 minutes, but you had some interesting things to raise and talk about, and it's all right, Casey. So I shall see you soon, Casey. Thank you for all your input tonight. So yeah, if anyone else is interested in any more questions, I'm still here. Any more questions? Because I want to wind the live stream down over the next 10 minutes. We'll go for another 10 minutes and then call it a night, because it's getting kind of late here. So any more questions? Any other questions you guys have? Because I'm interested to hear what you guys have to ask me. Really, it's been really good tonight. We've had some really good questions. We've covered some good topics, and we've discussed a lot of things. So, anything else for you guys to ask me? Oh, I don't. Well, see you later, Casey. I'll probably be my favourite colour. God, blue or green. That's an interesting one. Not been asked that one before in the channel, but blue or green. That'll do me, I think. That is a really random question. Any more questions, guys? My favourite colour is blue or green. Favourite bike, mate? In what sense? Are we talking motorcycles or are we talking mountain bikes? Because I've got my favourite motorcycle make, and that's got to be Kawasaki by a long way. I like Quackers. Really like Kawasaki's. They're my favourite motorcycle make. Bicycle. That's a tough one. I'll probably say Carrera for mountain biking, GT for BMXs, or Mongoose. For motorcycle, Kawasaki. I've always liked Kawasaki's. I used to watch the British Superbikes, and Glenn Richards was going around on a 750 against 1000cc Ducatis and Aprilias, and he was beating them. So I've always had a thing for Kawasaki since the late 90s when I was a kid watching British Superbikes and World Superbikes. Always followed the motocross teams and the Superbike teams that are run by Kawasaki. It's sort of just is what it is. I've always supported any Kawasaki rider in Superbikes or MotoGP or motocross. I always support the Kawasaki guy. When you see that Kawasaki green, yeah, it's one of the best factory colours. The Kawasaki green is an iconic colour of motorsport. It just caught my eye. But no, Carrera I would go for. I've got a Carrera mountain bike. So Carrera for mountain biking, BMXing, Mongoose. That's. But I don't really BMX anymore. I haven't BMX for years. I used to have a GT, and it was a bit heavy. My mate let me borrow his Mongoose, and it was just lighter. But yeah, that's me answering the bike question. I don't know what else I can really add to that. But no, I've got a Carrera mountain bike in the garage. I've got to fix it up. And at the moment, my motorcycle is an Aprilia, and it's not too bad. It could be better. I don't mind some of the Italian makes, but well, if I could, I'd have a Kawasaki all day long. Right, any more questions? Because I'm gonna start winding it down now. I think, unless you guys got any more topics to talk about. Okay, Kawasaki Ducati, that's cool. Right, I'm gonna wind down the live stream now. So thank you for everyone who asked questions and participated tonight. We've discussed a lot of things tonight, a lot of things, a lot of topics. So that's brilliant. Again, we covered a lot tonight in only an hour and a half or so. But I started the live stream a bit later than I wanted to. But no, thanks to everyone who was involved.